Beneath miles of ice, older than our cities, older than our memory, lies a library that never burned. During an interglacial age long forgotten, when the world briefly warmed, a civilization chose the cold. They saw the ice not as an enemy, but as a protector. While others built with stone and soil, destined to crumble, they built with something far more enduring. This was not an ice age, but the pause between them, a brief, planetary exhalation. The great glaciers retreated just enough to reveal vast, subterranean caverns, cathedral-sized chambers carved by immense pressure and the slow, grinding passage of time. While emerging civilizations on the surface were learning to shape clay and kindle fire, these people looked at the ice and saw permanence. They saw a medium that could outlast empires. They saw a way to safeguard what mattered most. And so, they walked into the glowing blue cathedrals beneath the world's surface. They called themselves the Glacier Librarians. Their new world was a realm of impossible beauty. The ice caves were not mere shelters. They were cities, sprawling and majestic. The walls weren't just ice. They were carved, polished to a mirror finish, and reinforced with frozen tree resins and intricate mineral lattices that glittered in the faint light. And that light was a marvel in itself. It came from vast gardens of bioluminescent algae, cultivated in recessed grottoirs, casting an ethereal green and blue glow across the frozen halls. But the true source of light, the most valuable illumination, came from something else entirely. It came from knowledge itself. The librarians made a revolutionary discovery. They learned that certain tree resins, when mixed with specific plant saps and mineral dust, could be frozen without cracking. This unique amber-like substance could perfectly encase and preserve anything placed within it. Information etched onto thin sheets of this material could survive for tens of thousands of years, immune to decay and the passage of time. These were their books, their scrolls, their hard drives. These were the frozen amber tablets, and they held the collective memory of a world we have long since forgotten. They stored everything. They recorded complex mathematics that could predict celestial events. They detailed medical procedures using plants that no longer exist. They etched star charts that tracked cosmic cycles far longer than a single human lifetime, cycles that governed the great advances and retreats of the ice itself. And most importantly, they recorded warnings about the planet's volatile climate shifts, and detailed histories of civilizations that had already been lost to flood, to drought, to their own hubris. The librarians believed one truth above all others: fire destroys knowledge, ice preserves it. Every single amber tablet was meticulously catalogued. Every chamber was precisely mapped. The ice itself, the very substance of their world, became their archive. Their library was a living, breathing glacier. But the Earth's brief pause was destined to end. The planet's orbit shifted. It still changed, and the climate began its slow, inexorable turn back toward cold. The ice began to move again. The great sheets began to grow, to thicken, to advance. The deep, resonant rumbling returned, a sound that shook the very foundations of their frozen cities. Glaciers do not collapse like buildings. They don't fall. They flow. They erase. Entire chambers, once filled with light and knowledge, were slowly crushed, folded into the ice, and sealed under the immense pressure of miles of flowing ice. The librarians did not flee. They knew this was inevitable. It was the cycle they had recorded. They calmly sealed the deepest vaults, the most important archives. And then, they simply walked into the growing dark, embracing the cold that had been both their home and their salvation. The ice advanced south, burying everything in its path. Then, millennia later, it retreated again. Mountains were ground down. New rivers were carved. Seas rose and fell. Continents shifted. And in this grand planetary turmoil, the Glacier Librarians disappeared from history, not destroyed, but buried. Completely and utterly buried. Today, our scientists drill ice cores, pulling up samples of frozen time that contain air older than our own species. We analyze this ancient air to understand the past. But what else might be locked inside that ice? What other stories, what other warnings are waiting just beneath the reach of our drills? Somewhere deep under the polar ice, an unopened library waits. A faint glow still flickers from the amber tablets, trapped in their frozen vaults. It waits not to be read but to be remembered. Because the most dangerous knowledge isn't what we don't know, it's the kind we forget. Some libraries were never meant to burn. Thanks for watching.